Hello everyone. Let's review shlokas 34, 35 and 36 in Lalita Sahasranamam. हरनेत्राग्निसन्दग्ध कामसञ्जीवनौषधिः श्रीमद्वाग्भवकूटैकस्वरूपमुखपङ्कजां कण्ठादहकटिपर्यन्तमध्यकूटस्वरूपिणी शक्तिकूटैकतापन्न कट्यतोभागधारिणी मूलमन्त्रात्मिका मूलकूटत्रयकलेबरा कुलामृतैकरसिका कुलसङ्केतपालिनी. So let's look at the meanings. The first line, Haranetragni Sandagda Kama Sanjeevanaushadhihi. It's actually the last line in the war between Lalita and Bandasura. We covered this line in the previous video. This line means that Lalita revived Manmada, who was burned down by Shiva. Today we'll focus on the second line of 34, which starts with Srimad Vagbhava all the way up to Moola Mantratmika Moola Kutatraya Kalebara. The last line of 36, Kulamrutaika Rasika Kula Sanketa Palini, we'll cover it as next video. From the second line of 34 up to first line of 36, together they represent the Panchadasi mantra, and that represents the subtle form of Lalita. The line 36 goes off to Kundalini, which I think it'll be better to cover with the rest of the other shlokas. So before we start to look at the meaning of these lines and Panchadasi mantra, etc., let's briefly understand the three forms of Devi. So there are three ways to approach Devi that corresponds to three of her forms. One is Thula, which is a physical form, Sukshma, which is a subtle form, and Para, which is the subtlest form. So the Sthula form of Devi is either a statue in the temple, or it could be a picture of Lalita that we have in our prayer room. The primary thing with that is Lalita appears in a human form, and that is very useful for us in the initial stages of sadhana, because we are able to engage with Lalita in a human form, and we are able to see Lalita, and that's very helpful for us. Seeing is believing, so then we can start to engage with Lalita. So even if you see in Lalita Sahasranamam, the first few shlokas actually describe how Lalita looks. The intent is to give us a vivid description of Lalita, so we can form that image in our mental eye, and therefore we'll be able to engage with. That's why we say Lalita is wearing all red clothes, and she is holding a noose and a goad. She's having a sugarcane bow. She has flowery arrows. So these all help us picturize Lalita, and that's how she's depicted in the statue, in the photos that we have, etc. So that is the physical form, and that's fairly straightforward, easy for us to understand. This is how they look, and looks like a person. The next one, Sukshma form of Lalita, is a sound form of Lalita. So it's a mantra that represents Lalita. And there is no difference between the mantra and Lalita. It's Lalita herself, except she is in a mantra form. And that is the Panchadasi mantra, and we'll cover more in detail. The last one, which is the Para form, the subtlest form, is the hardest to perceive, because in this particular case, it is feeling the presence of Lalita. So she resides as a presence, and our inner apparatus has to be so fine-tuned that we can recognize that energy. So she's either a presence or an energy. And so the subtlest form of Lalita are Kundalini, which is a energy that's lying dormant at the base of our spine. And with enough sadhana, that energy can raise and go all the way up to the Sahasrara and bring enlightenment. Or it's also said that the Sri Chakra is the Para form of Lalita. She resides in the center of Sri Chakra, which is called as Bindu, but it takes a lot of practice for us to recognize her presence in there. So the subtlest form is like a presence that you can perceive and feel, rather than see and hear. So that is the subtlest form. So, if it helps, we can take a look at the three forms with a real life example that can be more relatable. So, let's say you go to a concert, musical concert, and there are people standing there and singing. You see who's singing, and therefore you can tell this person is singing. So, that is the physical form. You saw the singer, you know that that person is singing. Now, let's say you're listening to a song on the phone, and without even seeing who's singing, if it's your favorite singer, you can immediately sing, hey, this song is by my favorite singer. How did you recognize who's singing? Through the voice. With the sound, we were able to say this person is singing. This is the Sukshma form, right? We didn't see the person singing, but with the voice, we were able to tell this person was singing. Now, same thing, you're listening to that song. Now, let's say you're able to recognize the music director for that particular song. Now, this music director is not singing, not playing the instruments, etc. But you were able to tell this person composed the music. That's because you understand that style of music. You're so in tune with their signature that you're able to tell if this music is flowing this way, this must be this particular composer, music composer. So that is a para form where it was not a hearing or seeing, rather we were aware of the style. So there is an awareness there, there is a perception. So that is how the physical, subtle and subtlest forms translate to. Now let's take a look at the subtle form of Lalita, which these shlokas point to. It is the Panchadasi mantra, and that is the main mantra of Lalitambika. Panchadasa in Sanskrit means 15, and this Panchadasi mantra has 15 bijas. That's why it's called Panchadasi mantra. And the Panchadasi mantra consists of 3 groups of bijas, and each line is called as a kuta. Kuta means group. And the 3 kutas are Vagbhava Kuta, Madhya Kuta, or it's also called as Kamaraja Kuta, and Shakti Kuta. So those are the 3 kutas. The Vagbhava Kuta actually represents Lalitambika's face, and the Madhya Kuta represents the portion from her neck up to hip, and the Madhya Kuta represents the portion hip down. So those are the 3. And the whole form of Lalitambika is made up of these 3 kutas. And this is the reason why Panchadasi is extremely powerful, because it's none other than Lalita herself. And the 3 lines actually correspond to parts of Lalita. And also we know that the creation of universe starts from Shakti, that's from Lalita. So when Shakti turns away from Shiva, that's when the universe manifests. So in order for the universe to manifest, first of all, there has to be a desire in that ultimate reality. The 2 elements in that first step, the ultimate reality, the first step of creation is that it has 2 complementary aspects called Shiva and Shakti. So when Shiva and Shakti are facing each other, then there is no creation. When Shakti turns away from Shiva, that's when the universe manifests. So the first step in that is the desire to manifest. That ultimate reality, out of its own free will, is deciding to manifest. So it's called Ichcha Shakti. And that Ichcha Shakti first comes up in the Madhya Kuta. That's where the heart is. Once there is a desire to manifest, then there is a knowledge of what to manifest, how to manifest, how many forms to manifest, etc. That's called as a Jnana Shakti. And that Jnana Shakti is in the Vagbhava Kuta. So it goes to her head. And then once there is the desire and the knowledge, then the actual manifestation happens, which is called as the Kriya Shakti. And that is in the womb of Lalita. And that's why this is super secretive. And so the Shakti Kuta is highly secretive because it represents the waist down, which also includes the womb of Lalita, which is the source of universe. So there is also a line in the initial physical description of Lalita, where they say Kamesha Jnata Saubhagya Mardavoru Dvayanvita, meaning Kamesha is the only one fortunate enough to know about the two thighs, and that also represents the Shakti Kuta. So the Panchadasi mantra actually grants for anyone who's reciting it, it gives peace, prosperity, and it prevents any misfortunes. It gives a lot of auspiciousness, and it also enables the achievement of the highest kind, which is the samadhi, the oneness with the Parabrahman. That also is achieved. But at the same time, just because we practice Panchadasi does not mean that that oneness will be guaranteed. It's not like the black belt or anything where you put enough effort and you go through for a number of years. At some point, you get the right skill and then you get a black belt. This is not like that. It definitely requires many years of rigorous practice, but at the same time, there is also an element of whether we are deserving for that. That is also in play. Only for a very select few who are deserving of it, they will reach that ultimate goal. So in the Panchadasi, the Vagbhava Kuta has 5 bijas, the Madhya Kuta has 6 bijas, and Shakti Kuta has 4 bijas. And these each Kuta by itself is a powerful mantra. So there are ways in which these have to be recited, and only a guru can initiate people into the Panchadasi mantra, because the mantra is extremely powerful, and if recited in the proper way, even if recited in the improper way, it will show some effects. So it's very important to go through a guru and learn this mantra, because the mantra, and this is why even in all our Vedas and even in Saundarya Lahari, it is not actually given in an open form. So nobody said here is the text and here is the bijas. Of course, now in Google it's all available, but it was always provided in a secretive way because of the power of this mantra. Because knife in the hands of a surgeon versus knife in the hands of a robber, right? Or in this particular case, you can say knife in the hands of a surgeon versus the knife in the hands of a child. At least between a surgeon and a robber, there is the difference in intent. A surgeon uses to cure someone and give them good health, whereas a robber might be using the knife to harm someone and do something for his own good. But in the case of a knife in the hands of a child, the intent may really not be to cause any harm, but because the child does not know to use the knife properly, may cause harm for its own self. That's why moms will not give the knife to their children. No matter how much they cry, we will not give them the knife. And that is the similar way all our seers created this Panchadasi mantra. This is extremely powerful. It can be used for all the right things, but if we don't know how to use it, it could turn into harming our own selves. So Panchadasi mantra should always be learned through a guru. So let's take a look at the lines and then let's understand the meaning line by line. Srimad Vagbhava Kutaika. So that is the Vagbhava Kuta. Swarupa Mukha Pankaja. Mukham means face, Pankajam means lotus. So the Vagbhava Kuta represents the lotus face of Lalitambika. Kanta Adaha Kati Paryanta Madhyakuta Swarupini. Kantam means throat. So Adaha means starting from the throat or neck. Kati Paryanta. Kati means hip or waist. Paryanta means up to. So starting from the neck up to the hip is Madhyakuta. Madhyakuta Swarupini. So Madhyakuta represents the portion starting from the neck up to the hip. Shakti Kutaika Tapanna Katyato Bhagadarini. So the Shakti Kuta then represents the portion below the waist. Kati Katyato Bhagadarini. Kati again means hip or waist. So all the portions below the hip. Moola Mantratmika. Moola Mantratmika, the Panchadasi mantra, is also called as Moola Mantra. Moolam means root, and this is the source of the universe. It represents Lalita, who is the source of universe. So she is the root. Moola Mantratmika, so she is the essence or embodiment of that Moola Mantra. Moola Kutatraya Kalebara. So this Kuta is group, Traya means three. So the three root groups make up her body, which is Kalebara. So Kalebara is used to denote a body that is at the peak of health. That's what Kalebara means. There are many words to denote body, but Kalebara is one that is at the peak of good health. So that is the meaning for all these lines. And Kulamrutaika Rasika Kulasanketa Palini actually now goes into the subtlest form, which is the Kundalini, which we'll cover with the rest of the shlokas. In the next video, we'll cover from the line 36, second line of 36 to 40. Thank you.